Theodore. He's a tugboat and a friendly tugboat too. A friendly tugboat too. Oh, Theodore likes to do the things that friendly tugboats do. Pushing and a pulling in the great big harbor, in the great big world is so much fun. So many brand new things to discover. Waking with the sun, gotta get the job done. Oh, Theodore and Emily, Bodak, Hank and George, and the harbor master too.
So it's once again a peaceful day in the big harbor as Theodore was cruising along peacefully when he heard a strange sound. The sound was coming from Northumberland, who had found an old bell at the bottom of the harbor. Curious though how Northumberland is still awake by this time. Doesn't it look like the middle of the morning by now? You'd think you'd be asleep already.
I found this old bell at the bottom of the harbor. You like it?
Oh, yes, said Theodore. Northumberland was always finding great things under the water at the bottom of the harbor.
I like the sound,
said Northumberland as he yawned.
Makes me sleepy.
Of course, Northumberland was sleepy because he always sleeps during the day. Could I borrow your bell, Northumberland? Asked Theodore. Please? Well, Northumberland was tired after cruising under the ocean all night, and he did want to get some sleep.
You promise to take good care of it?
He asked. I triple promise, said Theodore.
Well, I guess it'll be all right.
Hooray! Shouted Theodore. I'll take very good care of the bell. Oh, you can count on me.
A bell sound makes you sleepy? Okay then, very odd choice since it's a pretty loud sound, but whatever. Also, a triple promise like that? Now you're just asking for trouble, regardless if you're being extra careful. So soon after Theodore got the bell, Hank was now interested. You want to take a wild guess as to what happened next?
Can I try it, please? Asked Hank. No, Hank, said Theodore. Northumberland lent it to me, and I have to look after it. Please, Theodore, please, pleaded Hank. Careful, Hank, said Theodore as Hank bumped him. Theodore, continued Hank. Oh, he was so excited, he bumped Theodore again. Hey! But it was too late. The bell sank with a gurgle. What do we do now? Wondered Hank. I'll have to tell Northumberland that I lost his bell, said Theodore quietly. Ooh, he's not gonna like that, said Hank. You promised to take good care of it. Yes, I did, said Theodore. Oh, he felt terrible.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie when I say this, but I feel like that was a very dick move on Hank's part. The bell may have fallen off Theodore's deck, yes, but who was the one that was bumping him around being a pest about it? If anything, it's more Hank's fault that Theodore ended up dropping it. But the other thing is, why was it all the way out on his bow to begin with? Why didn't he just put it on his deck? Having it stick way out like that was another disaster just waiting to happen. And what do you know?
Theodore, said Hank, maybe we can get the bell back on our own. Well, said Theodore slowly, I don't know. Sure we can, shouted Hank. We just have to figure out how. Well, okay, said Theodore. But deep inside, he really wasn't sure it was the right thing to do. Fortunately, Benjamin Bridge had noticed the exact spot where the bell fell into the water. You need help of a special kind, said Benjamin. Help that knows how to really unwind. I get it, called Theodore. We know a barge that can unwind. We do? Wondered Hank. Who? Bobby Barge, said Theodore. You see, Bobby had a crane that could unwind enough rope to reach the bottom of the deep harbor. Of course, said Hank. Bobby can bring up the bell with his crane.
Don't you just love how Hank is trying to remain optimistic, meanwhile Theodore is over here still pretty upset about this whole mess? If he really thought telling Northumberland was what he needed to do, then maybe he shouldn't have listened to Hank. I get wanting to find the bell before more trouble were to happen, but that's literally asking for trouble to come knocking. So now that Theodore was on his way to get Bobby to bring the bell back up, guess who conveniently showed up after?
Northumberland, cried Hank, startled. What are you doing here?
Oh, I can't sleep. Oh, I really miss my bell,
Said the sub.
Oh, where's Theodore? Have you seen him?
Yes, said Benjamin. No, said Hank, both at the same time.
Well, have you seen my bell?
Asked Northumberland. Yes, said Hank. No, said Benjamin, again, both at the same time.
Is something wrong?
Asked Northumberland. No, said Hank. Maybe, said Benjamin. Well, now Northumberland was starting to worry. Does Theodore still have my bell? He asked. Well, began Hank. You see...
I'm so tired, said Northumberland. I need a nap.
No, tell Theodore I want my bell back as soon as I wake up. I sure hope Bobby Barge can find that bell before then.
You better hope so, since you are the one who technically started this whole thing, Hank. I especially love how he tried to play it off to Northumberland like nothing was wrong, and of course Benjamin had to get involved and make everything sound even more complicated than what they already were. But it's all done in a funny way, at least. So Bobby began helping the tugs try and find the bell, but he kept pulling up all the wrong items.
So far, you found an old tire, a propeller, and an anchor, said Hank. Well, maybe if you told me what it is you're looking for, I could do better, said Bobby. Oh, it's a surprise, said Theodore. He didn't want anyone else to know about the bell. But thanks for trying, Bobby. Trying what? Asked George. Nothing, shouted Hank, Theodore, and Benjamin all together. What are you all doing here? Asked George. Everyone looked at Theodore. Oh, why did I ever borrow that bell? He thought to himself. I'm looking for, he began, for you. George looked surprised. For me? Right, continued Theodore. I think I heard the dispatcher calling us.
Well, then let's go, said George. There must be a job waiting.
Coming, called Theodore. Hank, keep looking, he said quietly.
Wait, hold on a sec. Not 2 minutes ago, didn't Benjamin see exactly where the bell dropped? So why didn't he just guide the tugs to the exact spot? The search would have been done in minutes. I can answer that. Plot dragging, 'cause then we wouldn't have a story. So now this problem was getting really mixed up as Theodore and George headed to the dock. Northumberland shows up more worried about his bell, and to George, it now looked like Theodore had played a trick on him. So he hurried back to tell Theodore off until Northumberland showed up at the exact same time.
Theodore, I don't like it when you play tricks like that, said George. The dispatcher didn't have any jobs for us.
Theodore,
said Northumberland.
where's my bell?
What bell? Say, shouldn't you be asleep, Northumberland? Asked George.
Yes, I should be.
Northumberland was starting to feel very grumpy at being kept awake.
But I want my bell back,
He continued. Do you have it, George? Did you borrow it from Theodore? What are you talking about? Said George.
I know you always like the stuff I find at the bottom of the harbor, George.
Well, that's true, said George. Well, then where is it? Said Northumberland. Where's what? Asked George. My bell, thundered Northumberland. Well, Theodore felt terrible. He'd never seen Northumberland so upset. And now, Northumberland was blaming George. I want my bell back right now, demanded Northumberland. Well, I don't know where your dumb old bell is, snorted George.
Now, I don't really blame Northumberland for being upset about not having his bell, and I'm sure there are some of us that have pointed fingers at others when we think those in particular have taken a precious item of ours. I can say I have been in that position myself. But again, because this was so dragged out, George was now being blamed for something he really didn't have anything to do with. So I don't blame him for being angry in the heat of the moment either. And Theodore by now knew he should have said something when this all started.
The bell is right below us, You mean George threw it back in? No, said Theodore. I dropped it. My bell's at the bottom again? Under all this water? Why didn't you tell me, Theodore? I should have, Northumberland, said Theodore, but I thought I could get it back before you found out. Theodore, you promised to be careful with my bell. You triple promised. Well, Hank felt very sorry too, and he knew it wasn't all Theodore's fault. He tried to speak in a loud voice, but the words came out in a kind of a squeak. I bumped Theodore, said Hank, and the bell fell into the harbor. Thanks, Hank, said Theodore quietly. And then things just got so complicated, said Hank. We're really sorry, Northumberland. We are, said Theodore. I should have told you right from the start. Me too, added Hank.
Okay, I'll at least give Hank that little redeeming factor for owning up. Again, the blame should mainly be on him, not really Theodore all that much. No meant no when he couldn't try it out, let alone bumping Theodore constantly. So maybe he should have come forward first and taken most of the blame. Just saying. But in the end, though, it was great that the two of them realized their mistake and learned a very important lesson from all this. But the bell was still missing. Or was it?
Look what I found, said the happy submarine. The bell, said all the tugs at once. To fetch a bell from under the waves so blue and green, said Benjamin, you need someone special named Northumberland Submarine. All the tugs shouted it together. Shh, said Northumberland. I'm really sleepy.
And that concludes Theodore and the Borrowed Bell. Again, I'm not trying to say this is a bad episode, because I do happen to like this one. But this is yet another plot line that I feel like that has been milked a bit. I can definitely see Theodore and Hank being a bit relatable, mainly to younger audiences as they tend to struggle more with telling the truth. It is one of the many difficult life lessons we will always come across at some point in life. So if anything, yeah, it's still a very important lesson to learn and take to heart. It was also nice to see that Northumberland gets another co-starring role after being silent for almost half the season. I can also see people relating to him in terms of being worried about a precious item of theirs and just wanting it back. And it was nice to have little cameos from Benjamin, Bobby, George, etc. Music was pretty simple once again, and visuals we don't really see so much. Just the same spot underneath Benjamin and a small glimpse of the Great Ocean Dock. So yeah, I don't really think this episode is amazing compared to others, but it is still pretty good. Up next is Emily's Close Call.